Folks, welcome to a special game filled edition of Select Start, the video game podcast for ACMG Presents Talk Time Live and TalkTimeLive.com. I am, of course, your host, Daxavier Josiah, but in this episode, I am joined by my tag team partner of Sunday night's main event on TSN Radio 690 and News Talk, I believe, 610. He is the one and only Boris Roberto Aguilar, also my tag team partner for All Elite Geekly, which is an extended podcast for Sunday night's main event. He is here to once again go through the grit with me on this review of WWE 2K24. We did it last year for 23, and we decided to do it again. So we're here. We're going to talk thoroughly about this game, see if it met up to last year, if not superseded it. So, Boris, what's going on, my man?
Not much, Dax. Thanks for having me on this platform. Always a privilege to talk to your audience, the Talk Time Live audience. It's always a blast chatting to you and talking video games. And when we have the opportunity to mix wrestling and video games, by gosh, we'll take it.
It does have that special kick to it, doesn't it? It's really cool. So
it really does. It really does. It's like it's our worlds are colliding.
Right, exactly. So we got a chance to thoroughly play this, and you know what's so sad is that I hate the timing of this release because it literally, and you haven't jumped on it yet, but it's literally off the cuffs of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which I don't want to compare and contrast the two, but in a lot of ways because in all fairness, this is a wrestling game, but in all fairness also, this is a video game period. So in a lot of ways, this will be critiqued and compared to other games. But I mean, if we're talking only wrestling games itself, we'll be doing that in a basis of other wrestling games. But I also, this is it. When I grade a game all the time, I grade it as a game period because it still has to perform. It still has to work as a great game. And even though it's never going to be possibly a game of the year candidate, mind you, it still has to meet the standards of what a quality game is.
We learned this the hard way with a lot of wrestling games in the past, right?
Yeah.
Whether it be on the Switch or whether it be 2K20 or Fight Forever, the AEW video game, right? Like,
right.
There's still a standard that needs to be met for these games. We're not going to give them a bye just because they're a wrestling game. They're a niche product, a niche game. Dax, what's really funny is that I know a lot of people who don't watch wrestling whatsoever, but they will play the wrestling video games.
Right.
So,
I mean, we actually saw that that success happen in WrestleMania 2000.
Yes.
Remember when that came out? That came out, and actually, I would absolutely argue that WWE or WWF at the time, WrestleMania 2000, the video game on a 64, really truly helped elevate that the brand even more to get people more aware. The casuals, we talked about on All Elite Geekly recently. Please check out that episode when you get the chance. You can check it out on SundayNightsMainEvent.com. We talked about the casual fans and the importance of casual fans. That's one big way to grab casual fans, because even if they're not wrestling fans, they're video gamers, and some people are fighting game fans, and it may actually bring them to the table as to why it is, we love the genre so much. And a lot of people during that time, during the Attitude Era, really enjoyed that game to the point that they ended up migrating themselves over to the actual, genre itself and became fans from there and got it.
Last weekend, I was out and about, gallivanting, as they like to say here in Toronto, and I ended up having this conversation with this random person, a friend of a friend, and after the whole, this guy talks about wrestling, has a wrestling podcast and a radio show. We just started talking about wrestling in general. They're not really a fan; they're a very casual fan, but they fall into that category that you just explained, where they are fans of video games, fighting games, and then they'll check out the actual product itself based off of what they play. Like, these are people that like that do play video games. Another example, last weekend I sent you a message. I was having my late lunch and a cold beer, and these random people were talking wrestling. I inserted myself into this conversation, and we ended up talking about the wrestling video games. And one of them said, "Look, I don't watch wrestling, but I play these video games." So it's like it's a huge opportunity, and it's a huge marketing opportunity for the WWE to take someone that doesn't necessarily watch WWE and turn them into a fan. That's why these games are so important, that they run well, that they work well, that they that they appease not
Mhm.
only gamers, or
Right.
sorry, not only the wrestling fans, but gamers, right? This
Right.
is just one of the huge marketing machines that WWE has up their arsenal, that can help them in the grand scheme of things, and it's the reason why WWE is WWE.
And now more than ever, because now these the graphics for these games are way beyond what it was dating back to 2000. You know what I'm saying? Like it is insanely, it is insanely gotten evolved to a level where now you can enjoy this, but you can also literally see what these people look like, and now you can relate them once you see them on TV. Is That's the art of branding, right there in a nutshell. So we are going to review this game once again and have a lot of fun doing so, mind you. We're going to go by the grading. Now, this is something that we didn't do last year. Last year, I didn't have a grading system, and I developed a grading system a year later to this point. So now you're embedded into this grading system, which will go on the following categories. For those who have listened to this show, know exactly what this grading system is, and we have a bunch of categories that we will follow. One of which is originality, visual presentation and performance, sound of music, gameplay, fun factor, replay value, actor performances. Oh God, I can't wait to talk about that. And of
Yeah,
course,
same here.
story. In story, I've already got my percentages. Boris has already tallied up his stuff, but at the end, I will ask him for his percentages of each category from there, and then we'll find out what his final grade is in accordance to mine. So I'm very interested. Sir, are you ready?
Let's do this.
All right, let's do it. Let's start. I'm going to start now. Even though my grading system is different, but I always like to start with story first because that just brings it in. And as always, WWE 2K always provides now two story modes instead of one. One is based on your female character that you create, and the other one is based on the male character that you create. This year, they once again have two of them. I thought last year's both story modes for last year were actually really good. In my opinion, I really enjoyed them. I played them again before 24 came in, and I was very impressed at the writing of this story because it was at times I thought it was better than some of the wrestling that we saw today, in a lot of ways. And I always like the fictional aspect of like it's where it's in a world where we don't where just actually wrestling is real, So they take us into this type of the way that we like or should think in a kayfabe type of way. But they did it again this year. Now, I will say this was not a fan of one of these stories so far. One of which was Undisputed, which I'll talk about right now. And I'll give the story about it, and then I'll go to you and give you your thoughts on this. The story of Undisputed is a story where your wrestler, where you wrestle your way to becoming the longest reigning champion ever, beating Roman Reigns' record. Roman Reigns, meanwhile, is away for a game for he's like away for a few years, becoming a
Yeah.
Hollywood success, but is determined to stop you from superseding his record. That I do like. On top of that, The Miz, who is a general manager doing like along with his dorky assistant Troy Simpkin,
Yeah.
is on a path to making sure that you don't even make it to the top. Unlike last year's My Rise, this one lacked the depth and real world narrative. Added to that, it was a story involving the Miz. So, what did you thought? What was your thoughts on this story? On this part of the story, the undisputed story?
I thought that they took a risk, and I'm going to give them credit for taking a risk. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't do the regular story, and I understand that if they did the regular story like they did last year, it would have kind of collided with the other story mode. So I
Yeah.
like the fact that they took a risk here, and it was a very calculated risk.
Mm-hmm.
Having the Miz as the evil GM was a
Yeah.
decision at some point. It was
Yeah.
very interesting. I like that in the grand scheme of stuff. And especially when we talk about voice acting, which we'll get to later, right?
Mm.
I think that it was a very conscious decision that
Yeah.
2K and WWE did for that. But again, when you think about the story, for me, I think back to SmackDown, the first SmackDown game,
Yeah.
where It's like you see the week to week transition over the course of time.
Yeah.
This one, because you kind of are literally just dropped in the middle of things. You're not an NXT wrestler. You're
Right.
already an established wrestler who's kind of like just floundering his way through Raw, right? And then because Roman Reigns drops the belt, uh, you're inserted into the big picture.
Yeah.
It just felt shoehorned. A lot of the things on the My Rise felt shoehorned. On the
Yeah.
Undisputed felt very shoehorned. It's not that I didn't like it. I liked it, but it just didn't feel natural,
Yeah.
real. It
Right.
didn't feel like a story that we would watch week to week over on our TV screens. I would rather have a story that I can relate to as a wrestling fan more. Not to say that this didn't have those elements, but like just like having those random matches against Kane, going to
Yeah.
Mexico, and it just I kind of felt like all that
Right.
was shoehorned. It just didn't feel like a natural progression. It's like,
Right.
what time period are we in? Like, what's going on? Like, there was a lot of weirdness there.
But I would also often say, like, I think the Miz's presence played a factor. Like last year, it was Shawn Michaels, who was
Yeah,
like the GM guy that was trying to, throw off your momentum. Shawn Michaels felt a little bit more realistic. And again,
that's
this plays parallels into real life. Like Shawn Michaels in real life plays a better character than the Miz does. The Miz just always comes off so quirky and corny, and and it plays on to this. And then on top of that, he had his assistant, or producer, um, who annoyed the living hell out of me. And I get
yeah.
he was there to annoy Troy, was there to annoy you, but not it was what we used to say X Pac heat, that
Yeah,
type of situation.
get
And
off
I
my
think
screen.
right, and I feel like if it was any other wrestler that was in that same position in that same role of the game, I think it would have been better. I think the Miz kind of took away from that for me because I can never take the Miz serious about anything.
As awesome as the Miz is in the grand scheme of things, in terms of his legacy, I think the
Yeah,
legacy of the Miz is going to be underrated. I think that's going to be the Miz's legacy
yeah,
in when he's retired. I just don't buy him as this GM, like running the
no,
show week over week. That's right from the get go. That kind of took me away from things.
but that is the Miz in a nutshell, and his legacy is we were force fed him.
Yes.
Okay. He has a force fed legacy. And that's not to say he didn't earn it along the way. There are times that he really has earned it. You can never take away his grit and his effort of really trying to be as good as what he is. But at the end of the day, it's just my goodness. Um, it just didn't work out for me personally. Now, I want to point out another thing that I discovered along the way, which I'm sure you discovered. For those like myself who were thinking that this was going to be a WWE game free of the deviants, we were sadly mistaken because in this game, and I'm going to say spoiler alert, if whatever. Um, for those who are expecting not for this game to not include Brock Lesnar or Vince McMahon, you're sadly disappointed as both of them do appear in the game. While not as playable characters, mind you, you will find them appearing on both My Rise and this year's showcase. The showcase mode is what you would expect, of course, and we'll talk about a little bit later. But it's basically WWE 2K's version of Giant Graham 2000 from the Sega Dreamcast. For those of you old school, importers that bought that game. But 2K, to their credit, has worked diligently to blur out as much Vince McMahon and as much possible Lesnar as possible, with the rumor that they're working on Lesnar coming back, of course. But I do also point out that they had to rush to get this out because of the allegations and everything that come out. They had to rush their asses off. So I will take that into the benefit of the doubt in hopes that maybe a patch or so later, or update later, they will eventually, hopefully, get that out. Boris, what do you got
That's
to
the
say about that?
thing. I agree with you, man. It's from a human point of view. It's disappointing that seeing them, right? We like
Mhm.
again, nothing has been proven in court of law, blah blah blah, but still, there's something ick about them. And we have the technology where we can take them away. Now, like you just said, January 26th, that's when these allegations came out.
Right.
That was literally what, 4 5 weeks before the
A lot of
release, the
not
commercial
enough time.
release.
Yeah.
That's like, and I'm gonna give 2K all of the credit, but in the grand scheme of things, what I want to see is exactly what you said. At some point, they need to be removed. But again, I'm not going to take a gold grade score outside. It's just it's kind of also a reminder to you as a quote unquote fan, as a
Hmm.
consumer of this product.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
we're here to
yeah.
talk about the game. We're not here
But
to
that,
talk
that's the
about
thing, and
that.
that,
But
and
that's
I will say this: that aspect will not affect this grade at all
yes,
with me
yes.
because of the fact that I get what was going on and I get what they had to do, and kudos to them for even trying their best to do it. At the time they do it, I just hope that they continue to do it. But it just made for a showcase standpoint, it didn't make any sense that like they took out 14, 15, and 16, but didn't take out 17. That part I didn't get.
I honestly feel like they ran out of time, or they just forgot. Like it was just so weird that he was left in 17 in showcase mode.
Right, right. It was weird, especially because I went to 15 too. So I'm like, all right, if you're gonna take out 15, you damn sure better take out the rest of these damn ones. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? At least let us have the 15 arena and the 16 arena. Like let us have the arenas. I don't care about doing a showcase. The arenas were dope. Okay. Um, but nonetheless, I get it. I totally get it. I hope that you guys do too. It is very triggering and upsetting to some, and I get that. And trust me, I know. Because it took me a while to cool off and rationalize the situation.
I know.
I'm like,
When I will, draw back the curtain and say that when you noticed that, you were fuming. You were
I
fuming.
it took me because it took me by surprise.
Yeah.
And there were reports all over the place saying like they were taking out the game. They were taking out the game. And I'm playing my Rise, and all of a sudden, what the hell?
Yeah.
Now, granted, and also like you can't play Brock in my Rise, but he's damn sure a final boss character in this game. So you do face off against him. And again, that a lot of that is it's gonna be interesting to see if they can take that out, because that was kind of a deeply embedded portion of my Rise. I don't know if they can replace him with another person and add it onto it. I don't know. I mean, they could, but it might take them time to do it. It's people. Game development is not a easy thing to do, nor is it a way that you could just instantly do things in a snap. It does take time, and I get that. So
The
I'll be
fact
interested to
that
see what they do.
the fact that 2K even attempted to remove them from the game just goes to show you the new culture, and the optics that they want to leave behind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and again, credit to them on that. Now, Unleashed, on the other hand, I actually like this a little bit better because it did provide that kind of real world narrative that we were used to, started with the indies and making their way up, and there was a reason for some. So let's go over the story of Unleashed real quick. Unleashed is where you play a female character who is co-owner and promoter of an indie promotion. But the indie promotion is hilarious, by the way, at the beginning. I
Yep.
love that. I loved it. It's so indie, low budget. It's perfect. But it's where they she runs this promotion and promotes with her friend when she joins one of her performers who is going to try out for the WWE. Your character was once asked to join the WWE roster, but she turned it down because their philosophies were different. Shotzi, mind you, who was one of the ones that wrestled for this organization called TBD, which they still don't tell you what TBD means in the story, um, which is the indie promotion that they were all in. She had some long term and long time issues with her claims that she was held back from getting an opportunity to face for the TBD title. And Shotzi decides to take the opportunity to get her revenge during the tryouts, but it backfires, leading you to getting a WWE contract so you can unleash the potential, if you will. One of the great things that I liked about both games, both story modes, I should say, is what I enjoyed is that they added the two story campaigns from character and added characters and story elements from both 2K23 and 2K24, which they weren't always consistent, mind you, back in the day. But now we're starting to see all these characters. I actually enjoy some of the fictional characters that they produced. Like one of them is Chosen, which is the Japanese mask character. I thought he was hilarious in 23. I thought he was really good. Amongst other things, Cole, which was in 2K22 at
Yeah.
some point, so they brought him back. Justine, who was last year's big focus, really up. And by the way, the actor, I forgot, never know who the actor is, but the actor who plays Justine, love it. I think one of the best performances in the game, aside from William Regal, mind you, who is like the best thing in here.
Montez Ford.
I've been wanting to mix it up with him for years. WrestleMania is going to be huge when I tear the house down with Ford. And tie Roman's record.
Well, we're going to give the WWE Universe a preview of WrestleMania when you and Montez have a little chat in the ring tonight.
Let's do this.
But we'll talk about that in a minute. What did you think of the Unleashed story?
I liked it. I didn't get as far. This is I didn't put the time that I wanted to put in. But
same here. Yeah, I got pretty far with it, but not far. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it. Like I said, to me, this is the more familiar story. This is the story that I like more. I'm more of a fan of this style than what they did than with the Undisputed, personally.
Yeah, I was just, honestly, I'm telling you, I was almost, after playing Undisputed, I was afraid to actually play Unleashed because I didn't want Vince McMahon to come out from under the actual ring like Kane, like, how you doing? Creep up on it. Yeah, right? Creep up on the female characters. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to, they already surprised me once. So, but no, honestly, no, I did enjoy what I played with that one. And I thought this was the more relatable story told. And it's something that we've often see in the real world. So, kudos to the writing, of WWE, when it comes to these games, they've done really, now, as much as I didn't like Undisputed completely, Unleashed, I felt like really hit the mark. Familiar. I can't say that word without, but it was more familiar than the other one for me. I really enjoyed that one.
Agreed 100%. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. So much so, and I know that this is another category, but I'm going to go back and finish this story. Like, that's how much I really liked it. Like, typically once I'm done the review or gotten to a certain point, I'm okay with putting the game down, but I want to finish this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about originality. Let's put it like this. Like, while it is really basically more of the same. It is. And I don't understand why people have this complaint about more of the same. I don't care if it's more of the same if it's good. Like, I play Street Fighter since Street Fighter 2. It is basically the same game, just different presentation. It's still a lot of fun to play. Shut up. With that said, while it is the same, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing, especially now that, you have other wrestling games to compare it to, in contrast to now. WWE 2K provides a robust amount of game modes and match types with, the return of casket match and a brand new ambulance match added. Even more ways to enjoy this game. The match types are created for 1-on-1, tag team, 6-man, and 8-man tag, which includes 4 cage matches, table matches, ladder matches, and much more. Very interesting, though, is that the layout of this, and I've been waiting to talk to you about this, because the layout of 2K24 really looks to mimic a lot of the features and mechanics of AEW Fight Forever. Have you noticed this?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Again, a decision was made in the design of this.
Mm-hmm. It was called Vengeance. It was called, we're going to show our asses. I felt like Triple H headed this one for some reason. But
that's exactly it, man. Like, it honestly felt like, similar to the real life product, right? We talk about this all the time. We might as well talk about it here. And that's that 2K was forced to up their game. And you know what? If something looks good, if something works, if something is easy to navigate, and again, that having that familiar kind of sense isn't a bad thing, right?
No.
If both wrestling games have certain things that are the same, that's less mechanics that you're gonna have to teach people.
Yeah, absolutely. So everything from how My Rise story mode works and allowing you to change directions of the story, aka No Mercy, which is normal to the series, to even a new modified move set creator that now allows you to have 5 signature moves and 5 finishers, which is something they never done before in WWE 2K, but recently seen in AEW Fight Forever. Coincidence? Nah. The game also, here's the other kicker. And I'll say why. Here's the other kicker. The game also has not 1, not 2, but 3 gauntlet match types in here. Why this is significant and why I'm emphasizing on this, because this is a match type which is something that gamers from who bought AEW Fight Forever have been asking for since the game has a gauntlet match in the story mode of AEW Fight Forever, but it's not as a match type. So I think this was a total dig at AEW games, giving us this, because why emphasize on a gauntlet match? Like, I mean, it's a gauntlet match. They got so many other match types in there. It's very significant that they added that in there. So there are more features that resemble Fight Forever in here, but it's safe to say that WWE 2K24 has in fact out Aki engined AEW games. What are your thoughts?
Agreed. I really I feel like, look, they've been in this game a lot longer, right? AEW Fight Forever was their first game. What did I tell people? And we talked about this last year during the Fight Forever review, and that was, we need to set the expectations properly with Fight Forever. They're not going to be the saviors of wrestling video games. They upped the ante for sure. They set the bar. They made others raise the bar, but they weren't going to save wrestling video games. So at the end of the day, 2K just has so many more years under their belt in this new engine, and they just knew what to do, right? They were able to implement things, and they were able to take, for lack of a better term, borrow from other games and kind of add that 2K-ism to it. It's not surprising. It's not surprising right now, but it's for sure, again, raising and setting the bar to new heights.
But you say experience, and I don't know for sure because of the people that's involved in it. I would also say budget played a factor in this too. I think WWE 2K put in a really big budget to produce this game. I think Tony Khan kind of scaled back on the budget to do half the things that we know that the Aki engine is capable of doing. And here's the other part. This is not the only Aki engine game that we're going to see this year. Hyper Focus Games, which Sam Bali I interviewed last year, is coming out with Ultra Pro Wrestling. And that game is slated to be everything we wanted to see in a Aki engine game. In particular, it's mimicking not only No Mercy, is mimicking Virtual Pro Wrestling to an absolute T. And then on top of that, they have better graphics. So when this game comes out, can we really say that it's experience when you got a whole entire indie crew who has not worked for Aki or Sin Sophia, who has not worked for THQ, or is putting together a game? I mean, at some point, can we really give them that when they're about to give us, and with a creative suite, they really robust. And I've seen they put out actual video footage of the creative suite. It is deep. It is virtually as deep as what we've seen from WWE 2K. Are we really going to be able to say that when that game comes out, or is it going to expose AEW games at this point?
It's going to expose AEW games more than anything else.
Yeah,
it's going to expose AEW games a lot more than 2K. Right?
Yeah,
like when I said that, I mean, like, they've been working on this familiar engine essentially since what, 2K21.
Yeah.
So.
But it was Ukes. But the thing was, it wasn't the Aki. It was Ukes, and Ukes is a bit of a different engine.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. But now they kind of implemented some actual Aki philosophies and familiarness to it. I need to pronounce that name right when I get to chance. That's going to be my challenge for the year.
There we go. But for next year's review.
There you go. That's my resolution for next year. But I really think it's going to put them. It's going to question people more about it now. So I'm well. It'll be very interesting to see what's going to happen with that. Let's talk about visual presentation and performance because you know it's it's I want to say hit or miss on this note. Some of it is good and some of it is not so good. Like the graphics alone, insanely photorealistic character models. They do so much better every year with that. If we needed to like if any one of them were missing and we needed to get a description of them, we could just put on this game and they will find them instantly. Okay, it is so awesome that they look just so close to the home here. While the character models look visually stunning, the animation is what falls shorts to me in this game. Character animations in the My Rise mode is inconsistent, mind you, while the character presentation through the ring entrances and victories are accurate in real life to their real life counterparts. It's other modes like My Rise where you see the disappointing liveliness of the character models. In My Rise, there are times when we see full cutscenes where the character's movement seem more lifelike. Now, you're talking to somebody who is currently in finished playing Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth and Spider-Man 2 and how the movements during cutscenes and everything through it, like there's an extra special type of love that's been added to that. Then you play this game and then you just see again exposed. Other times when they're like standing there, they're just not even actually looking directly at you. And you'll see the footage that we're putting up as well, but mouth movements and audio syncing never seems to come together during these scenes. And remember, mind you, this is 2K24. This is a constant thing that happens with this company and this game development. Which is why I always hate the fact that they rush these games to come out. When you got stuff like that during those scenes, and they can be compared to animatronics characters that you see on Chuck E. Cheese or Five Nights at Freddy's. That's what it reminds me of. In an age where we have great, greatly animated games such as the ones that I mentioned, even God of War, even Horizon Forbidden West, where it just looks so beautiful no matter what part of the game that you're playing. WWE 2K seems to always phone it in on the parts, which is why fans believe that we are getting the same experiences all the time, and it feels like an outdated version of a few generations ago. Even Creative Suite remains the bread and butter of this whole thing to me. I like Creative Suite. The Creative Suite is one of the biggest reasons why I come here, and that never fails. You're able to create virtually any type of person or thing that you want in there, and that's what brings the fun to it. But so far, I have only experienced one. I think I honestly experienced, in terms of performance, I've only experienced like one crash and two bugs because of loading and lag times and stuff like that. That led me to restarting the game, which I think that I will consider that. I will chalk that off as a minor. By the end of the year, they're going to have that fixed with no troubles and all the stuff. So this game just still came out. So, but to me, it's a little bit of a hit or miss. There's some good things. There's some bad things. What did you experience from that?
See, I'm gonna jump in there real quick. Okay, cool. They'll have it fixed by the end of the year, but we're talking about it now. For me, maybe this is the old school gamer in me, but I'm not gonna say I understand how development works now. I'm not gonna say a complete game, but it needs to be at a point where you don't notice these small little things like animation, some of the visual glitches, those audio glitches, and that really did bother me. This was actually the category that was hardest for me to score. I really had to sit down and think about this. And even right now that I'm staring at my score, I'm like, oh, am I sure? Is this it? There's some redeeming qualities. There's some qualities that I don't like about it overall. There's some good. There's some bad. So for me, the point I'm trying to make right now is that, you know what? And this is like the entire video game industry. They just need to do a better job of trying to release a more complete game on day one. Once again, I understand why that's not happening, but again, it just takes away from me wanting to buy games day one. More and more, I'm finding myself not buying games until months down the line because I don't want to deal with these issues on day one.
But again, that's the bad part. I mean, it's sad that people have to generalize to that point, but it's companies like Square Enix and companies like Insomniac that gives you the reason to do it. They justify the reason to get day one, because when they come out day one, and I will point out that Insomniac did have a bug that they quickly remedied and quickly patched that up. I mean, like faster than anything I've ever seen. But it was a minor type of situation that they ever squashed. But I played that game from start to finish the first run. I enjoyed it immensely, and now I'm enjoying it again because of the new game plus mode. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, just flawless. There's a reason why you see five out of 5 or 10 out of 10, or in my case, a complete A+, 100 all from start to finish. I'm in love with that game because of the experience that they provide us. Everything from every category that we have here that we're doing now, they got 100 for, because they did it right. And you know what they didn't do either? Like we talked about before, they didn't rush it.
Mm-hmm.
They did this. Companies like Insomniac and companies like Square Enix, they not only do great games, but they do it with care for and love for the fans. And it shows.
I would rather have, to that point, I would rather have a new wrestling game once every 2 years. I know that will never happen. I know financially that'll never happen. I know that for many reasons that's not ever going to happen at this point. But I would rather have a release cadence of 2 years, so that we don't see these issues, and the game would be that much improved. Because rather than think of 2 years ago what we had, right? 2K22 versus 2K24. And
2K20.
Look at the one in the middle. Well, that's not even start with that one. But look at 23, right? That one had a lot of issues.
Yeah.
So
and you remember when I went back to playing that, I noticed the issues were all gone, and it was like, I wish this was the day one that we had.
Yeah, right. That's the thing. I haven't had crashes, but again, I don't put the game through the vigors that you do, because for me, the create suite, like, I use them, but I don't stuff it. I don't go overboard on them. I wouldn't say it's overboard. It's exactly what they claim that we can do. Yeah. Okay. Yes. But compared to me, that's what I'm comparing it to me, not as a user. I've never been huge on the creative suites. Maybe one day when I have more time, I'll do it. But it's something that I'm more interested in the core game itself. I never had a crash on the core game, but these small little details that I noticed really bothered me. In terms of glitches, sound glitches. There was even some audio glitches that I noticed when I was playing with my headset.
Absolutely. I mean, so like, but the problem here's the other problem. Us, we allow it, we accept it.
Wow,
we deal with it. I keep telling people, like, don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to demand better.
Funny. If I wasn't going to do this review with you, I would probably wait to buy this game.
I agree. This is the part where we have to take the bullet a lot of times too.
That's fine. I'm okay with that, with doing this yearly taking the bullet for 2K.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's talk sound and music. This year we got some great themes from WWE's past, and including favorites. I'm gonna name a few. Glass Shattered by Disturbed. Is it safe to say that, like, their career was built by that song?
So
it was the first time I've ever heard of Disturbed.
Not me. That's far from it. But that again, that crossed them over to wrestling, and they got a ton of fans.
It was the right time, because it was right near the end of the Attitude Era. It was the popularity of wrestling as we speak. And then it was on top of that, it was the theme song for one of the most popular characters in wrestling and pop culture.
I started listening to metal music because of Extreme Championship Wrestling.
Of course.
Did I say more?
Of course.
So to me, that just goes to show you, right, how much influence music has to wrestling. Why theme music is so important, which is why sometimes I'm just flabbergasted at how bad a lot of modern themes are.
Yeah, especially today, man. You know, shout out to Jim Johnson. I so miss that dude. I mean, he's
Even
greatly
CFO,
CFO, especially CFO. Oh God, CFO
especially
during
CFO.
the
Look at
NXT
the
era,
fight and exactly some
the
of those
original
things.
Alistair Black theme. Don't get me
Yes.
started. Don't
Oh,
get me started with that one.
Even Bobby Roode, right?
Bobby Roode,
And
which
Shinsuke Nakamura,
which
Sami Zayn.
I'm glad they brought that back. I'm glad that he's back to the original song. The Finn Balor's original, like,
Yes.
come on, man.
Yes.
By the way, shout out to Mega Ran for letting us use the his rendition of that song for this particular video, mind you. You know, that's why I'm rocking you right now. Most respect. So,
Love it.
but other ones like Big Undertaker's Big Red theme is there. China's theme, I always love that one. Eddie Guerrero's
I
theme
love that
for
one.
yeah, Eddie Guerrero's theme for WWE and WCW is on there.
His WCW theme is my favorite
So dope.
song ever.
Let me ask you something. Because I come across this stuff. I listen to music now thoroughly, especially WWE classic music. And you gotta, you know, this is one of those cases like when you're a kid, you watch Looney Tunes and you're enjoying what you see. But when you watch it as a grown up, you start realizing there's some things that they say and do that's like it just went over your head. I realized this with some WWE music. Eddie Guerrero's WWE theme. Do you still love it the same way that you did back then? If you did.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because it to me, like it kind of panders on the idea or the stereotype of the culture being what it is based on Eddie Guerrero. But I still love it. But I'm like, is it still to be beloved today? Is it still good enough to love today? And will people start to like try to be woke about this one too or something like that? It's one of those cases right there where you listen to the lyrics and stuff like that. But yeah, his WCW theme, it has no lyrics. It's like just
a banger.
It's just a banger. You know what I'm saying? The NWO theme is back on. RVD's One of a Kind is there. I mean, just to name a few, it's just back. So I really love that they brought some of these back because that just brought back the nostalgia when I actually was a naive fan of the company at best. But there were some good times to be had there. So it's no strange to anybody that the New Age Outlaw song is not on there for some reason, but that's a whole nother thing. But this year, Post Malone takes charge of the music selection which includes a couple of tracks that he made and others he chose, like Busta Rhymes' "Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Can See," which is, I'm a huge Busta fan. Like he's in my Mount Rushmore of his hip hop artists of all time. My inspiration at the time for getting dreadlocks or locks, for mind you. I will say I love that song. He has way better songs to play on this game than that one. Way better. I could have picked a dozen of better songs for that choice. Even though it's still on there, I dig it. Whatever. There's another. I'm going to give another nod to a song that he chose on here too, and it is a country song. House Fire. Have you been listening to that one?
Yep.
I don't know why. I rock with country songs every once in a blue moon. This one just sticks to you. It's so good.
It's similar to his song "Laugh It Off." Love it.
I his songs too. Like Post Malone is just one of those guys, those artists in this genre that I've learned to respect and love because he's so talented. And then on top of that, he's just such a good dude on the outside, and I love seeing stuff like that.
There's that new wave of music artists in the States, right? Rapper, but they learn or they listen to everything. Post Malone is one of them. Jelly Roll is one of them.
Jelly Roll, I'm starting to get into him too.
Just so talented.
But also they have they got good hearts.
Yes.
And in today's society where like it's not even about the music anymore. I grew up when artists were not only good in the studios, but also were doing some really cool things on the outside and, being moralistically, and ethically good natured. And I've seen both of these guys really, do their thing on the roads. And these are two guys tattooed up and everything you would never suspect to be as good natured as these guys are. And I love that.
Exactly.
So, what'd you think of the music selection this year?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. This is like constantly like a 2K thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a highlight of these games for me. They did a fantastic job with the music, having the classic WWE themes, having some of those WCW themes, and the real actual soundtrack for this was just so well done. Like this
Mm-hmm.
to me was one of the highlights of the games.
Absolutely agreed. Now, one of these what I believe is the biggest plus of this game, and that's the gameplay.
Mhm.
This is where the fun begins. 2K Games gave us, the same gameplay schematics that from last year. Again, it doesn't matter. You don't need to reinvent the wheel every single time, because they already did this with this one, and this one just seems to work so well. And added some actually new features in this as well. They added on to this. Have you tried the new Trading Blows feature?
No, I haven't.
Okay, this is awesome. And once you figure it out, once that comes in and you figure it out, go into the options and tweak it up so you can do it a lot. But it's basically the Trading Blows, mini game is where
Yes, I have used it.
Oh,
I
you,
have
you
used it.
did.
Yes,
You just stumble
sorry,
onto
yes.
it because it's not something
Yeah,
that just
yeah.
comes instantly. You got
I
to
don't know.
stumble.
I don't even know how it triggers it. Like
I think it's basically you got to hit. You both got to
you
react
both
to it.
start
Yeah.
punching.
But I will tell you this: if you go into the options and the options to like tweak things up, you can modify the AI to start it up even quicker, so it can happen more
Oh.
often. I love this part because now, for those who haven't checked it out, it's an ability to start a back and forth slugfest using a gauge system. And you hold the button down until you reach the green and all this stuff. It's really a lot of fun. And if you miss 3 times, you lose the mini game part of it. But again, this is a mini game, very familiar to those who played the Aki engine because you got to see this was shades of No Mercy and Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, which they had that same type of technique in there. Again, something that Fight Forever doesn't have, at least at the moment. That's an ongoing game. They claim they're going to add more to it. We'll see what happens if they stick to that. But this was a welcomed addition. I love the Trading Blues. The ability to control managers. This was something I've been wanting them to do for some time, and they finally did it. The ability to control your manager or tag team partner's actions while on the apron or on ringside is very welcome to me, because one of the biggest pet peeves that I have, and I'll talk about this in a minute, but this is especially great for tag team matches. One of the things that I do not like is when you go for a pin and your AI character does not defend you properly, and the pin always get broken. This is something that I think I loved about the Aki engine, and what I love about Fight Forever, which they do have back, because when you go for a pin, your tag team partner, even though you can't control them, it will come out and defend you and actually really succeed in the defense. 2K Games still had trouble with this, but now they have an answer for that. They basically created this new control scheme where you hit L1 and you hit a certain like directional button, and you could do a plethora of different things. You can move the turnbuckle. You can your AI character can move the turnbuckle. They can go and attack the tag team partner. They can take out a chair for you. They can distract the ref. I mean, it happens both as manager and that. So it really, because I never like using a manager before, but now you can use the manager to interact with even more. So now I'm more interested in using it now. So I really like that. I mean, there's still issues that I have with the tag team with some schematics too. It's like the dragging technique, schematics is like, which is again something that AEW Fight Forever does really well, and the Aki engine does very well. When you drag an opponent from the ground, you could drag them anywhere that you could possibly want them to go. 2K Games still has that issue with that. So, I mean, little things with this, but overall, I really enjoyed this, the gameplay this year. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, I really did like some of the tweaks that they did. They really added. It's the small details that they added.
Yeah.
In this game that for me really made the big difference in the grand scheme of stuff. Right. Like, I think that the like I said, like you were just talking about the adding, being able to use the manager is huge. It's a huge thing. That for me, that's a huge thing. Like the more the mini games, and the mini games not being so difficult. One thing that I do want to give a ton of credit to this game is just the sheer amount of things that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And at no point did I find myself struggling to remember, like struggling to not. I don't want to say remember, because there were times I forgot how to do something,
Yeah.
but overall, I felt like they do a great job of keeping things simple enough that you can figure it out on the spot, even if you forget to do something. And just like even Irish whipping someone into the corner and lifting them up to the middle turnbuckle and then the top turnbuckle,
Yeah.
small things, small details like that. Royal Rumble matches, right? Having
Yeah.
someone close to the corner and like how you pick them up and do finishers and stuff like that. These small little things, the details, right? And I think that 2K really nailed the nail on the head with these details, and I really did enjoy that. I think that overall much improved from last year's game. Much improved. Oh my gosh,
absolutely.
Night and day almost.
And you could tell they even tweaked some of the more familiar move sets with doing to make things better.
Yeah, and with some of those mini games, especially that the back and forth like you were talking about, those animations, I think they did a really good job of those animations. A game that has 200 plus characters, and no one felt generic for the most part.
That's the
Everyone
part.
felt like that it was their avatar, right? Like it was so well done. The details, it's those small details.
That's the thing.
They did a really
And
good job.
that's the thing I was saying about, like, once you get in the ring, from the time you get into the entrance to the in-ring stuff, to the control schemes, to the victory, scenes, it all feels accurate and natural to the presentation that you would have for a WWE. It's only when you go to the cut scenes. Oh, I will give credit to go back to the story element, to the My Rise mode. I will say that all of it was not bad. There are cut scenes that are really good, that it comes off a little bit better, but it's like those scenes where it's just that one character and they're talking back and forth, and they're not even looking at you. They're looking down or whatever like that.
It wasn't the King Kong game. So
no, oh God, no. All right, when you put it to that case, it is 2-3 steps above that.
Yeah. 100 steps above that. Oh my gosh.
Talk about compare and contrast.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about fun factor. And I honestly, despite the blemishes and the deviants that are involved in this game, it's by far 2K Games' best to date. And that is to say, it's not going to be game of the year, of course, but in terms of wrestling games, if we're just basing it on wrestling games, it's one of the best that's out there right now. And we can compare it more than just itself at this point, at least for now.
I've always grown up with someone to play these games with. I've always had someone, and I'm not even talking online, just like a physical person to play these games with. And I've always struggled when I didn't have someone to enjoy these games, because there's just something about playing with your friends or playing with your siblings or playing with whomever, having that other person, because obviously a person is much better than AI. But this is where, for me, the game really does a great job. And that's, I had a ton of fun playing by myself, whether it be the My GM mode, because that you just get lost. I found myself playing till like 2 a.m. because it was like, okay, I got
that is my Achilles heel.
Yeah, right. So like, I had a blast playing by myself. There's enough options in this game where you can play some My Rise, then you can do a random Royal Rumble, then you can do an ambulance match because you just want to have and play these games. Then you can go jump into Showcase. You get bored with that, then you can go into the My GM mode. There's always something to switch things up. It's not a constant same thing over. And this is where I struggle with in fighting games, because these fighting games, and to no fault of them of their own, it's they're fighting games. That's what they're made there to do. But it's the repetitive nature of fighting games and sports games where I really struggle a lot. But I think that 2K does a great job with 2K24, WWE 2K24, to give you enough variation that even if you're playing by yourself, you're gonna have fun.
And I will say this, I've for years have talked about the crap I went through with 2K games in their game in these previous renditions and installments. They could have easily phoned it in this year, because after seeing Fight Forever and all the stuff, and it's like, oh, we ain't got nothing to worry about, we can keep doing it. No, they really doubled down on what they can do and really showed their ass this year. So I mean, kudos to them for that. I mean, given more time, this could have been a fantastic game, but a truly awesome game in general. But right now, this first outing of it is still more good than bad. And considering what they had to deal with, the obstacle that they had to deal with recently, I mean, you got to give them their flowers in some form or fashion, if just for only fighting games alone. But I got to ask this question. This is a very important question. Did you happen to play as Elite Cody Rhodes or fight Elite Cody Rhodes yet?
I played as Elite Cody Rhodes, and I also unlocked Elite John Cena.
Wait, they have an Elite version?
Yeah.
I didn't know that they had a John Cena version.
I'll send you the code.
Oh, crap. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Dude. First of all,
I'm not holding anything back. I'm sorry.
No. First of all, I saw this. I showed you a screenshot of him, like, because I didn't play him yet, and I went through all the stuff for the review. But I finally decided to sit down and play as him because I finally created my first title belt, custom title belt for the game, the one that I used from last year, and I added that on to do a tournament. So I added Elite Cody Rhodes, and my God, it really is a action figure version of him. How creepy is that?
It's so weird because it honestly looks like one of those stop motion G.I. Joe things.
It does.
I love it. I love it.
The animation is crazy, man. This is like it actually looks better than Five Nights at Freddy's. That's how good
but like this is what I love about this game. What like it's something so minor, but yet
right.
It was so well executed.
It's so out of pocket at the same time, but it's awesome. I gotta see the Cena one, but it is so creepy in a fun way. Just seeing you face off.
The way that he moves, it reminds me of the animation, especially when you're fighting between Elite Cody and Elite Cena. It reminds me of the MTV Celebrity Deathmatch.
That is hilarious. That and I was thinking Robot Chicken as well.
Yes,
So
yeah, that stop motion type of thing.
Yeah, it's hilarious. But what's funny too? It's when we were kids getting those actual action figures like the GI Joes and all this stuff. This is what we imagined that would happen. This is the type of fighting we would imagine when we had these action figures and all this stuff. It is just mind-boggling to see what they did with this
game. What's happening in those games are the same scenes that I used to play out with my big blue ring and all my toys.
Yes,
the LJN toys.
Exactly. It is. One was a Transformer, the other one was a GI Joe, the other one was a WWE figure.
And then they're all trying to kill the GoBot because who cares
But
GoBot?
that's the beauty. That's the beauty of the Creative Suite because they actually give you the creative function to do exactly that type of thing. And now they got these elite versions of these characters. It is just utterly amazing. Kudos to them. Whoever came up with that idea, thank you and screw you because that creeps me out. And it's probably going to creep me out for days.
It's so weird.
Especially when he has the injury, laceration injury that he had from, what was it, WrestleMania, the last WrestleMania?
Hell in a Cell.
Oh, it was Hell in a Cell where you got to that? Jeez. I'm like, here we go. Speaking of that, before we even move on to replay value and all this stuff, what was your favorite match type in this game so far?
I'm always a sucker for Royal Rumble. I don't know why. I love Royal Rumble.
But the presentation is awesome on Royal Rumble always.
Yeah. War games, tons of fun, and I don't know why it feels more smooth than last year.
Oh, remember when we reviewed it last year, they had some issues with it, but they managed to polish it out. So
yeah. And I really haven't played the game since we reviewed it, to be honest.
Right.
The ambulance match is fun, tons of fun, but I'm a fan of the casket match.
The casket match is dope. It is. How's your fingers?
About the casket. That's literally what I was gonna say. That's the one thing about this game in general is, especially with submissions.
Yes.
And the casket matches. It's like, what am I? It's like, it reminds me of track and field 2.
Or being on a power pad.
Yeah. I wish we had a power pad option for this. For like, dude, we're not spring chickens anymore.
No, we're not. But I will say, I'm pretty sure you can nerf that down. If it's too hard, you can nerf it down because there's times you're like, okay, we should wrap this up now. You're still fighting here.
Yeah, it's like I remember once it was like 3 minutes in. I'm like, I can't keep doing this.
Yeah, I know. I'm pretty sure, much like the AI aspect of it that you could tweak, there may be a way that you should be able to tweak that down to a point that you're not fighting so damn much. But man, do they make you fight. Still, I also like the fact that the audience does say "fight forever" as well too. I noticed like something that is not trademark exactly by they do trademark. Well, they can't trademark it, can they? Did they?
Yeah,
did AEW trademark that?
They trademarked the name, but as
An attachment with AEW Fight Forever, or just Fight Forever in general?
I think an attachment with the game.
Okay, because you're playing this game too, and you're hearing the crowd say "Fight Forever," and I'm like, God, I'm sorry, that's got to be a dig.
Again, I think I know wrestling fans say that a lot, but in the context of video games, that's something that they could have omitted.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, granted, it does get said.
This is awesome.
Yeah, it's not to say that it doesn't get said at an actual WWE event, but there's the extra significance to that plays all into this as well. So I mean, especially when they have like the gauntlet matches and the other things that are just so mimicking that of the game. I wouldn't put it past if it was kind of a ribbish type of thing. Would not put it past it at all. But you talked about the replay value aspect of it, and say we will, like WWE 2K24 always provides so much content that you could go on forever playing and enjoying various modes and so many new creative features to do. They got community creation along with that brings people together with their creations, and you could download their stuff and their fictional characters. They got tournament modes, which I love a lot. They got so many match types within it. Just so much that you could do. Like, honestly, they don't really need to do another game for next year at this point. That's exactly so much.
Where are they going to improve? What can they add? Like,
right.
It's a legit question almost.
I mean, all right, in terms of presentation, they can improve. They can improve on the presentation. They can improve on the voice audio syncing, the
acting.
The animation and stuff like that. There's a lot to improve, but there's also a lot of the foundation that is solid. A lot of it. So, I mean, while they're ahead of the game, they still got much more to go. They're not perfect by any stretch, especially because they rush it out so much, and we're seeing, laggings of loading times and glitches and every so often that we normally see. Yeah, I mean, do it all these other games. Make it an ongoing game for like Street Fighter, like goes for like at least almost 3 to 5 years before they actually got to 6, and they were still tweaking, adding things. My God, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 came out in 2017. They are still bringing out new extended content for that game to this day, and people are still playing it. WWE can absolutely still do this, especially because their game is so top of the line right now. They can improve on what they have and do that, and then come out with these games. Or like I said, every one of these game developers, do what Square Enix does. Just plain and simple, man. So, I mean, but with that said, the replay value to me is extremely high. And if you're a wrestling fan, like, I hate to say it, but like, there's no other game right now that is going to fulfill the needs of a wrestling fan than 2K right now. At least, again, until the wrestling code comes out, until Ultra Pro Wrestling comes out, which I believe both of them are slated to come out sometime this year. This is the pinnacle, if you will, right now.
Yep, I agree 100%. I said it earlier, right? I'm gonna go back to actually finish the story modes. There's other things I want to test, like just play around with. Dare I say, I might even go online and get some matches in. That's something that I didn't do. And again, I don't care for online playing because I just don't like the hostility in the community, and in my mind, it's always the League of Legends community. So for me, to even consider that I'm gonna continue playing this game,
Yeah.
and replaying this game, it's a huge thing. So kudos to the team, but man, out from a pure wrestling point of view, what more can they add outside of the graphics, outside of like the visual, outside of the video game aspects? From a wrestling point of view, what more can they add?
The Punjabi cage match, I guess.
Yeah, they have that. They have the
scaffold
MMA
match, maybe.
pit,
I don't know.
the pit, right? Like
Re-
the MMA
oh,
pit.
you know what they should bring back though, because they mentioned this on the showcase mode. 3 stages of hell. I would not mind that coming back.
That would be a lot of fun.
Loved that concept, and they did at one point back in the day. One of the I don't think it was one of the 2K games. It was one of the other THQ WWE games, the SmackDown games, that they had 3 stages of hell. I loved that concept. First of all, that was one of my favorite Triple H matches ever. With him and Austin when they did that, it was so great. Bring that back, because you could customize it to whatever you wanted to do, whatever like that. I would love to see them bring that back. That would be awesome. Okay, last and certainly least category I'm going to bring up here before we do the grading is the actor performances. So we watch wrestling, in particular WWE, quite often. We know how great some of these guys are on the mic and promos. Why doesn't it come off here? And this is possibly the lowest point in the game, is the voice acting, along with the clunky and robotic animation, mind you, that is seen in certain parts of My Rise mode. There is also the awful voice acting by not only the actors playing the fictitious characters in the game, but also the wrestlers themselves. Wrestlers that are really good at speaking lines or even talking, on the mic in general. I find it weird that like wrestlers like Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins and Finn Balor, for example, have all the charisma in the world during, the actual real life stuff, but during the scenes in My Rise, you can tell that they're just reading off lines in a recording booth.
Recruits, since you had such an issue with them, felt right for you to take both of them on at the same time.
We got the win against AJ, but War Games is gonna be a whole lot tougher.
With you and the rest of the crew we have, I like our chances.
Same. Although I do wish we weren't fighting on Miz's behalf.
Excellent. Ready to lock them in? Once you make this decision, Miz will let corporate know it's official, so you can't change your mind. Besides, we really need to start promoting the participants, and Miz has big plans he wants to kick off for the Build to Survivor series.
It is only when you see them in the cutscenes is when you start to see them, the cutscenes itself, cutscenes and those other scenes are a little bit different. The cutscenes is where you kind of see them shine a little bit more, and they are actually acting or doing, just going off the cuffs of their lines or whatever like that. I don't understand what happened between point A to point B. It was almost like AI was doing one of the scenes, and then they ended up doing the other ones.
AI would do a better job than what we ended up with. Let's be honest, my friend. So this is an issue that I've always had with wrestling games and sports games in general, but especially soccer. EAFC, they've been doing a much better job of this in the commentary recently. But oftentimes, look, even the ring announcers, they're so robotic in their delivery. It's almost as if they tell them, just read the line, don't add any emphasis, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Take it from there. Because in the story mode, when you're actually in this like hardcore story mode, those cutscenes, they're delivering the lines like a promo. But when they're not, it honestly, like you said, it sounds like they went into a sound booth and read off the script, and they were told to like, just why don't you talk like this, like a normal conversation, very monotone, very, very, but then later on they're actually talking like they give a shit.
Right. Like some of these wrestlers actually have SAG-AFTRA memberships. Okay. Yeah. It's like, why are they even like,
This was an issue last year. John Cena. Look how bad he was.
Of all people.
right?
Of all
That's
people,
what I mean.
right?
This year, Cody. It's like, oh my. Number one, that doesn't even sound like Cody sometimes.
Again, AI, maybe.
Dude, there's just something about it. Like, listen, Dominic, like there's some wrestlers, maybe because it's their real voices, they're
Mhm.
like their actual conversational voice, not their persona voice,
Right.
And I think that might be it. But some of these guys and gals don't sound like the guys and gals. Lita.
Yeah. Now you remember, I think basically in 2020, there was the situation where where people felt like it wasn't them because of the pandemic and they couldn't get to the booths or whatever like that.
Yeah.
So they got actors to try to sound like them, like John Cena, like we talked about, was one of them, blatantly one of them.
Blatantly.
And it didn't sound like him. This time it was the same thing. Even that Troy Simpkin dude, I couldn't stand his voice acting. Can I say my biggest issue was the creative character's voice? Last year I thought the actor who played your character for the men's version was fair because his voice can carry over and be universal. And I'll give you a great example of a great actor slash a voice actor, Phil Lamar. Phil Lamar is one of the greats out there who does voice acting. He's the voice of not only like Jon Stewart, the Green Lantern. He could do that. He's also Samurai Jack. He's also Aquaman, a white character. He plays that on Injustice. He plays that on multiple, cases. And he's a black man who can carry his voice to be different variety of different ethnicities. And why couldn't they get a person that can? Two things they could have done. They could have got a guy who sounded neutral. And I'm sorry, but this actor was the whitest of the white sounding character and it doesn't go with everybody. Like if I'm creating my character, that you see on this footage, you're creating this character, but it doesn't sound like it. And he has like a very suburbanish voice to this extent. I would have preferred that they rather got a neutral sounding actor that can blend in with any ethnicity or any person of color or whatever like that, or diversity. Or they added a voice modifier, which I've seen many, many games do before. And I believe, who was it? Def Jam Vendetta. Didn't they do that at one point?
Def Jam did it. Yeah.
They had a voice modifier. There was a couple games that had, when you had creative features and creative suites, you had a voice modifier that by default, it sounded like this guy here, but you could lower the voice or make it higher or whatever like that. That would have been so much better.
It's a great way of you not paying someone. I know that that's not fair per se, but it's a way of you not having 10 people do the same lines, right? Yeah. Having a voice modifier. It's not like we don't have the technology to do that.
Right.
I found that the voices, it's like we're in 2024, man. Like there's so many more things that you can do. I think you brought up a great thing about how generic and your custom character was.
Yeah.
Like let's just say he ain't being invited to the cookout.
Exactly. Like here's the thing. Here's the other thing too. Is like it's not like they couldn't do it, and it wasn't. They can't blame the writers or SAG-AFTRA strike for it because it didn't connect. It didn't have anything to do with the video game industry. I know they were doing it during the time, but the video game industry was not affected by the SAG-AFTRA strike because it's a totally different contract and totally different situation. How hard was it to at least hire one dude that played a neutral sounding guy, or at least them adding a voice modifier to it?
Dude, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they just grabbed staff to do some of these voices, because that's
guarantee. I totally believe that. I totally believe that. It is very possible. Which at this point, it's like, why?
Yeah, why?
I
don't want to dwell too much on this, but like, there's so much to talk about here in terms of like how bad the performance was. And here's the thing: it changed my overall score for this game.
Yeah. Same for me. Because with that said, this game, I think, came out strong overall. Like this game came out very strong, especially it definitely improved on last year in a lot of ways, but it also fell back. And that's the common story with WWE 2K games, is that it makes 3 steps forward, 5 steps back in a lot of ways, because while they're improving on things by adding new match types and other things, they still fall back on the same blemishes that they deal with year after year after year and haven't perfected on. Why? Because they keep rushing out this game. And if they stop rushing on this game, they could probably get a way better score than they have. And they probably could compete with some of the actual other games outside of the genre.
I will say this, though. This year, they took 3 steps forward and only 2 steps back. Net 1 step forward. Like, I really do believe that with this year.
It really is a scaling of ever going scale. It really is. It's like they did here, but they kind of did this too. They went this way, but
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Doing a pros
Absolutely
contest,
agree.
right?
All right, so we're at the end. I think overall it's agreed that we both enjoyed the game for the most part, more than we didn't. It's safe to say they got in our good graces, but let's see what the score is nonetheless. We can't just go on hang on the laurels of the actual score. So,
All right.
all right. I want to give my score right now. So, well, first of all, let's do you. What did you think? Give it for our story. What did you give percentage wise?
For story, I gave it. I struggled. I changed this a little bit, but overall, I landed on an 80%. I just think that overall, there was more that I liked than I didn't like.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough. Originality.
This one I gave also an 80%. I think that what I liked was that I didn't have too many issues like you did. I feel like that the overall presentation of the game, like while we talked about, the voice acting, some of the glitches and things like that. Overall, I think they did affect the game. But overall, when I'm really playing this game, I kind of lost myself in playing this game, and I just had a fun time. So that to me means, hey, they did a good job here. So I'm going to give them the 80%.
Got it. Presentation.
75 overall. I think that while visually stunning, I think that there were enough issues that I had to give it that step back. So 75% here with the visual presentation and performance. I think that the things that hurt this game, like the minor glitches, the bugs, the sound glitches, it's like I said, there were certain things that I picked up while I played with a headset. It kind of did bring the score down for me, so I'm gonna go with a 75% on that.
Sound of music.
100%. I just love the score and the sound effects. You can't go wrong with wrestling sound effects ever.
Very good. Gameplay.
Overall, I'm gonna give this one an 85% on the gameplay. I really did. Overall, really did like it. It was just, I had fun. Like I say, if I'm playing this, I can jump to that. I can, and similar to the next category, I was able to fill my time, and at no point was I bored. At no point did I look at the clock and say, I've had enough.
All right. Fun factor.
Also 85%. Again, at no point was I bored. I just had a blast. They added stupid stuff like those elite wrestlers that just made this game fun.
I'm sorry, what was that score again?
For fun factor, 85.
85. Okay. All right. Replay value.
I was struggling a little bit with this one. But I'm gonna give this one a 75.
Wow.
For me.
Gotcha.
The fact that I'm gonna go back is huge.
Right. And actor performance.
Honestly, I'm giving this one a 65.
Wow.
It just
very interesting.
It really did turn me off. This
very
turned
interesting.
me off so much.
All right.
What's funny, Dax? Yeah. What's funny is that for actor performance, I played a lot of GM mode, which doesn't even involve and I feel like I was forced to play GM mode at times because I just didn't want to listen to the horrible voice.
Right. That's how I am with universe mode, mind you.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, we didn't talk about universe mode. That's going to be the kicker right there. I played a little bit of it, but universe mode is going to take a lot of recreating. I already recreated my my arena, recreated my my title belt and just add it forward. But like that is going to be the core where all the crashes is going to happen. I guarantee you. That's definitely going to happen. You're going to have to tell me how to master GM mode because I suck. Absolutely. I played that. The best part about it is the draft. And after the draft, it's like I suck at it from that point.
It takes a while. Like you're going to be failing a lot, but once you get the hang of it, you're good. You're good.
So in other words, the best advice is to stick to it until you. Okay. All right. Yeah. I'll settle for that. This is the time when I miss having strategy guides. Like seriously, I miss it.
Off the good, yeah.
All right. So overall, your case comes in. Your score is at a curve of 322.5, which leads to an 80.6%, giving it a grade of B-. I think that's fair.
I think that's fair.
Whereas my score, for instance, story, I gave it a 65 because I graded them on both. I liked one. I was not a fan of the other by any stretch. Whereas last year I was a fan of both stories. So I gave it a 65 at best. Originality, I gave it an 85% because I felt like they added a little bit more nuance to the last year still. So I'm going to give them a curve of an 85 from that point. Presentation, I gave it an 80% again. A little bit more than last year, but not as much. And there were still some presentational issues that we were just talking about. So it's not getting higher than that. Sound of music, I'm with you 100%. I enjoyed everything from, the selection at every bit of all the songs that Post Malone put out in his selection to the old school songs that we grew up and loved from there. So I love that. Gameplay, I gave gameplay a 90 because I think it remained solid. The only issue I had was the AI aspect of it, but the control scheme and everything has always been solid and a lot of fun. And it pretty much stuck to me. Fun factor, as much as I would like this to be a perfect game, I still got to admit that there's a lot of fun to be had. There's so much to do. It got 100 for me for that point because it just forever's going. And it also goes into the replay value. Wrestling games can be my go-to game or my go-back-to game is what I put it. It's like, even though I'm reviewing all these other games that are coming out, when I'm during my quiet time, this is the game I come back to because it's so easy to pick up, get into and play. And you can lose your imagination into it with the creative suite and all the stuff and create your, we're creating what we did as kids, but now we're doing it in video game form. And we're playing with those action figures again to that extent. So replay value and fun factor both gets 100 for me. And of course, acting performances, I gave it a 50 by far. It's just I've heard
it's just horrible.
I've heard these people on TV before. That's not it. Like, it's like they cloned Tyrone. Where the hell is where the hell are these people? Where the real people at? So my score comes to a 335.0 even, which also leads to a 83.8 percentile, and it goes to a solid B for me. So we're pretty close to the deal. It's a good game, not game of the year, but it's it's going to do its job, and it's unfortunately, even though we should have gotten it solid on day one, I do have confidence that they're going to tweak and fix a lot of things down the line, but hopefully they will really get rid of the obvious things that should not be in there.
Yeah. And if we compare this to last year we gave this the game in the C's, right?
Yeah.
So it's an obvious improvement from last year, which is exactly what you would expect. Overall, like I say, they had the net steps forward, but there is still a lot of work for them to do. One of the things and the major takeaways, the more I think about this, is like, what more can they add on the wrestling?
Yeah.
I'm sure that they can find stuff, but it's the other stuff. It's those small details now that I think that if they clean up, they will have a legitimate video game for everyone
that can compete with everything. But also I think what really help is to compare and contrast of wrestling games. When you compare this to AEW Fight Forever, yeah, you kind of look back like, okay, we got to give 2K Games some credit. And I hate to do this because for years they've been trolling us. They've been trolling us, and we knew they could get this good, and we know they can still get better than this. But like, now it took them to get to this. So, and they're not the only competition either, so they got to be careful. Right now, I put this, on a pinnacle, but with the grade that we gave him, it gives still room, an opportunity for other games to come in and say like, okay, we could do this and see what you could do and make them step up even more. So like, my hope is for the indie developers to really, kick them in gear with this. So otherwise, if you're a WWE fan, you should enjoy this. If you're a casual fan, I think you will enjoy this as well. But regardless, it is they really did a good job. So kudos to 2K Games on this year for this.
Yep. Overall, I agree with you 100%. Fun game, good game. I'll be going back to it. But Dax, I cannot wait to play some Rebirth now.
For those of you who follow us and watch and listen to All Elite Geekly, we will be on hiatus for a few weeks as this man will be going into an adventure called Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and we will never see him for at least about maybe 2, maybe 3 to a month, depending on how long he takes. Yeah, good luck with that, and have fun on your vacation.
It's actually funny because I'm nervous to start the game before Sunday, before the main show.
You ain't ready. Dude, you starting before the main show. You're not having a. There will be. We'll replace Sunday night's main event if you're not able to do the show.
The best of. Hey.
Exactly. You have to replace something because if you start to do your radio show before you play that game, yeah, you're gonna have to look into your archives, buddy. Good luck. From the door. Okay. So, Boris, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it once again to be a part of this. It was a great tag team effort on both our parts. I give us both an A for this one. But if you want people to check out Sunday night's main event on TSN Radio and News Talk 610, hit them with the plugs, hit them with everywhere you can listen to this show.
Yeah, the best thing to do is go to snmeradio.com, Sunday Night's Main Event.com. You can find all of the information on what radio stations we're at. But you know what? We're more than just a radio show. We're even a podcast, a whole podcast network at that, where we talk wrestling each and every single day, and we have show reviews from Raw to SmackDown to Dynamite, which we do, and Collision. We have it all. MLW. We also have special live shows after pay-per-views. So the best way to catch all of that is by going on your favorite podcast app or catcher and searching for Sunday night's main event. If you like talking about wrestling, join in on the conversation. And for that, all you need to do is go to Facebook, facebook.com, and search for SNME Radio. You can also be part of the family because we do need to keep the lights on, and the best way to do that's by joining the family, and that's by joining our Patreon, which will be revamped. We are going to be having more Patreon exclusive shows and whatnot, and for that, go to patreon.com/SNME Radio. Yeah, there's so many great things happening right now over at SNME Radio. Working with you has been a pleasure. We have such a solid team. Honestly, if you like wrestling, if you like discussing wrestling, listen to that network. There's a little something in there for you.
Absolutely. And by the way, Sunday night's main event, possibly the longest reigning wrestling radio show in Canada.
By far.
Safe to say? Yeah. Been around since the Attitude Era. I've been listening to, what we used to be the Law, and then they transitioned over to Sunday night's main event and rebranded from there. But I've been a listener since, that time, which speaks volumes of how well respected this radio show is. And it's just a pleasure to even be anywhere near this show that I listened to for years. So Boris, thank you so very much. I really appreciate all of that. And I really enjoy the time I am with you guys and the crew and all this stuff. So cheers to you on that, and keep up the great work there. We'll all be back to talk about all of this and more on All Elite Geekly on Thursday morning. So Boris, thank you again.
Thanks so much, Dax. Honestly, it's been a pleasure. Always fun chatting, geeking out with you.
Folks, I hope you enjoyed this very special edition of Select Start, the crossover edition with myself, and we'll Talk Time Live and Sunday night's main event, and that'll do it for us. So on behalf of myself and Boris Roberto Aguilar, all I gotta say is learn to let go, live life, and love all things anime, comics, movies, and games, and in this case, pro wrestling. This is ACMG Presents Talk Time Live. We are out of here. Take care, guys, and have a great one.